I'm Bill Carpou with Octane, and I'm glad to be here today with Will Hall, one of the founders and the COO of Acorn Biolabs, a company that we've worked closely with, and their headquarters are actually in Toronto. So, I think what we really want to frame up today is what is it Acorn Biolabs does? Let's communicate that to the audience here. And along that journey, how's Octane helped? So, maybe starting, Will, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
I know you flew in last night.
Yeah, excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Long flight. Give us an idea, when you and Drew created and formed Acorn Biolabs, what was it that you were trying to solve? What was the problem? And what was the idea behind this?
Yeah. So Acorn Biolabs was created to solve the problem of access to regenerative medicine. And so when we look at the data across a bunch of different areas, first at the amount of clinical work going into the regenerative medicine space, we see that there are over 8,000 trials exploring stem cells or stem cell related products and how they can benefit patients across healthcare. When we look at patient interest, 80 to 90% of patients feel regenerative medicine will benefit them in the future. But on the other side, on the clinical development world, unfortunately, the development costs, we're looking at it's in the billions of dollars for the cost to bring a cell and gene therapy to market today. And when we also know that at the actual practices offering services today, we've seen that there have been hundreds of warning letters given out by the regulators about stem cell and stem cell related products that are being delivered in practices. So we feel there's a significant disconnect in the access to regenerative medicine, which Acorn aims to solve through personalized regenerative medicine. So utilizing your own biological material to benefit you across the whole world of healthcare.
For any kind of potential ailment or disease or?
Yeah, so our platform leverages stem cells from the hair follicle. The reason we target that is because they can be accessed non-invasively, plucked through the back and side of the scalp. And these cells are really a super powerful sort of mini organelle. And our first applications for them are in the aesthetic space, so
right.
Skin quality and hair loss. But we also do a lot of work in how to leverage these cells in many areas beyond just the aesthetic space today.
So maybe just expanding on that, I was fortunate enough to be with Drew at a dinner hosted by Dr. Buford, was probably 3-4 weeks ago in Denver. And I was just completely blown away on where you guys are going. Not just where you've been, but some of the areas well outside of aesthetics that you're moving towards. So could you maybe expand on that?
Yeah, very sad to miss that dinner. I heard it was a fun one.
It was a good time.
So we published a paper last year where we took the cells in the hair follicle, we reprogrammed them into iPSCs, an induced pluripotent stem cell, and then we pushed them down the path to being pancreatic progenitor cells. And so this has huge applications in the area, in many areas of diabetes. We've also shown in our lab that we can take the cells in the hair follicle and we've pushed them to being fat, bone, and cartilage to prove out the MSCs. We've shown that we can create dopaminergic neurons, all from the hair follicle, as this resource for regenerative medicine. And so the first applications available today, though, are we use those cells as a factory to produce a product rich in your own growth factors and macromolecules. molecules. We call it an enhanced version of you that can be delivered in practice. And most of the physicians that were there at that dinner in Denver were in the aesthetic space,
right.
learning about that product and the applications of it today. And we work with well over 100 practices across North America delivering that now.
Is there a age range that it's ideal to have the follicles plucked and worked with?
Yeah. So what we say is that you're only as young as you are today, right? You can't get younger.
Right.
And so time is ticking. We say, though, that the time when patients are most interested in this really comes between the age of sort of 30 and 55 is the biggest bucket. But we've seen in some of our studies that patients can receive significant benefit from these cells into their late 70s. And so we have a number of patients that have come at that point and still been able to benefit from the collection process and receiving the secretome as the first treatment, and then have the opportunity to benefit from these down the line.
So assuming I'm older than 40, which I am, if you had this done at 40, yeah. you could recreate yourself at some point in 40, and I wouldn't be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
I can't roll it backwards.
You can't roll it backwards. But what you can think of this as is the regenerative resource. So if, let's say a 40-year-old individual came in and had their cells collected today, they would be cryopreserved, and they may first use those cells as a treatment in aesthetics. And so there's a physician very close to here, Dr. Steve Yolen, who we work with.
Yep.
Let's say you went to his practice, had the collection happen there. You could then come back over the course of the first year and receive those cells in some aesthetic treatment. But down the line, you can continue to tap into that resource as more things become available in that whole host of areas across regenerative medicine.
Got it. Okay. So turning to the the relationship and the partnership with Octane, how did we help? Whether it's accessing capital, talent, customers. I know you guys have opened up a facility here in Orange County.
Yeah, so we first met Octane in late 2022.
Okay.
At that point in time, our company was in an interesting position. So we first were looking at going to market with commercial services in 2020, but we were based in a hospital. And so what we all know happened in 2020, things changed pretty quickly. We were actually forced to shut down our commercial operation. And then we just focused on R&D. And that was for about 2 years. And as we exited that COVID fog, we were looking at how to go to market. And we had some signal that the aesthetic space was an interesting one. So one of our board members sat us down and asked, all right, if you could restart this company anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Sounds like a good board member.
Very good. And Drew and I, Drew, the founder of the company, said very quickly that, well, obviously, Southern California. And so the board member said, all right, figure it out, how to get there. And so we started looking for a group that could help us. We were introduced by a Canadian accelerator to Octane as one that might be an opportunity. But we were told that Octane can be an intense environment. So if you put a lot into it, you'll get a lot out, but you have to put a lot into it. And that was very true. So we met Octane in late 22, in 22 and or early 22, sorry, and we presented at the aesthetic conference in the beginning of 22.
In 22.
In 22.
Okay.
And at that conference, going into it, we were only not even a handful of employees. We had effectively no revenue. We had just a site in Canada. And through that event, we met a number of our current advisors. We met a number of our current investors. We now have just moved into a 13,000 square foot facility in Irvine Spectrum, very close to here.
Which is great news for the community here.
And we now have the biggest bulk of our company is based in Irvine. This is where most of our employees are. So
there's a great place to build the company, and I imagine you've seen that. And talk to me about maybe access to talent.
Yeah.
Do you see this area being rich in talent?
So we actually originally first opened a facility in Southern LA. And we've actually since then even moved to Irvine. And one of the main reasons was talent. It's better here than it was there. And there's just such a wealth of individuals who are experienced in the biotech world that is unique versus what we've seen anywhere else in North America so far.
What about milestones that maybe we helped create or something and have you hit, whether they're FDA or financial or capital raising or any of those types of things?
Yeah, so I'll start with raising capital. So pre-Octane, we had raised a small seed round. We've now raised, we're approaching about 20 million of funding raised, and we're gearing up to raise our Series B very soon.
Okay.
And the group that led our Series A, we met through a connection we made at Octane, and a number of investors we've met through groups that we met via the Octane network. So it's been very valuable on that front for us to raise capital and be prepared for the next round of capital. From a revenue perspective, so when we first met, we were essentially pre-revenue.
Right.
Now, this quarter, we're going to probably be up about 35% versus last quarter. Last quarter, we were up about 35%. So generating now material revenue and healthy revenue that's growing. From a product perspective, approval perspective, we have a cosmetic in market today, and we're starting the process towards that being an injectable. And so really significant milestones that we've hit along the way.
So will injectables, I know you're going to present and attend at at our aesthetics conference, which is coming up in January. Will you be presenting the injectable? That's relatively new, right?
So it's very new, and so we're actually on a hair panel at the aesthetic conference, and we'll be excited to share some of our big news then.
Yep.
Coming soon.
So when you kind of look at as you've grown this company, what's the future look like?
So Acorn Biolabs is we want to benefit patients, and this is going to start where regenerative medicine first hits market in aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
But we see ourselves as a regenerative medicine platform that provides benefit in a whole host of areas of healthcare, be it ourselves or others leveraging these cells in many areas of healthcare. And so on any platform, we see that what's most successful is if you create the first applications from that platform,
Right.
which is what we're doing with the secretome. But we hope that we can work with many groups down the line to leverage these cells in all areas of regenerative medicine.
Do you see this as maybe being able to, I mean, as you age, you start to worry about dementia and Alzheimer's and all that. Is that something that eventually you may be able to be in?
Absolutely. And so we see ourselves playing in all of these worlds, and not just one singular area. And so we see ourselves as really a health span company in a lot of ways.
And I love that health span, lifespan.
Yeah.
We're all signed up for that. But
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, people today that are. I mean, my parents, when they're in their 70s, and they live a much more active life than their parents did at that age. And I hope to continue that trend. And that requires groups that are pushing the envelope on the development side and the R&D side, which is the world that we want to be involved in.
yeah, just something that came to mind. How does what you're doing then, whether it's the injectables or not, differ maybe from PRP?
Yeah, so we compared ourselves to PRP in a variety of preclinical studies, and now have some at the clinical level. And PRP created from blood, our product created from the hair follicle. And just thinking about it in the single application, what we've seen is that from a contents perspective, at a preclinical stage, head-to-head, our product contained up to 34 times higher concentration of the growth factors in PRP in the hair follicle-derived product. And so a much higher concentration of what makes PRP beneficial in the hair follicle product.
Interesting.
And what we're seeing that now translated from the clinical side, looking at the literature, is that we actually are seeing a significantly higher degree of satisfaction when the product is delivered in treatment from a cosmetic perspective in the skin and hair space versus PRP at the same time.
So the PRP injectable in your hair will create more hair? Is that?
Yeah, so the idea being that, so comparing the two, in the hair space, what we're looking for is to create more hair and thicker hair. And so we're still at the early stage of this. Hair takes a long time to grow, and so we've just started our endeavors into this world. But the early satisfaction data is positive.
And one last question on that topic, and it's something personal to me. Is I've had rotator cuff surgery.
Yeah.
I've had a small tear that I've had 2 PRP injections, and it seems to have resolved it.
Fantastic.
Would this be able to be used in place of that, an injectable actually into the ligaments or the tendons and all?
Yeah, so we have animal studies ongoing right now exploring that sort of a space, and are seeing very strong results. And that's one of the next worlds we want to go into, is the orthopedics world, using our product there.
It seems like an inevitable place for you to be.
And one of the beauties of it compared to PRP is that for PRP, every time you go in, you have to have the collection done.
Right.
With our product, you can have the collection done, and you continue to leverage that resource instead of having the needle blood pull every time. You can have the collection of hair follicles one time and continue to use that many times in the future. And another issue with PRP is it's highly variable. And so if you aren't very hydrated or had a big night the night before, PRP may not have that same level of quality as it would a different day. Whereas our product, we have the ability to regulate that quite a bit more.
Yeah, my understanding is the process actually in spinning the blood could vary widely from device to device.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so our process, it takes a number of weeks, but we have a way to create the product. But once provided back to the patient, it's much more balanced from that perspective.
So anyway, there's been a great discussion. We appreciate your support of Octane and what we've done. Maybe just leave the, we'll leave this section and just anything else that we could have done or could do, or anything you want to reach out to investors, in terms of maybe in your B round if they're interested, how they can connect with you.
Yeah, so first I'll say what some of the benefit Octane has done for us. Octane opens up many doors, but they can't walk through them for you. You have to do that yourself. Right. And so Octane has been a fantastic group for building a network for us in Southern California that we would not have otherwise had. We now have a better network here than we probably do in Toronto. And then when it comes to our next round, we're gearing up for a Series B, and what I'd continue to ask is more introductions on that front. We've shown that we'll walk right through them and walk through the doors that are opened, but continuing to grow that network is really valuable for Acorn.
I think you really hit on an important thing as we kind of wrap up the discussion today, is that we could do a lot in opening the doors. We can't do it for you though.
Yeah.
And it's not that we really ever disappoint, but in those little instances that we do, someone expected us to not only open the door but walk through and do all the work. And where we're set positively is to make those introductions to ready investors that understand your organization, understand your technology, and are fully capable of writing a check from that standpoint, or advisors that could help you build the business. So I just, I think you hit on a really important aspect of what we do and what we do well versus what we don't. And it's the introductions.
What you do is put together a highly engaged network of people.
Yes.
And so the first event we came to, I think there was a list of, let's say 100 people at the event that were coming, and I initially asked to be introduced to every single one of them. Someone, Mike Hill on your team, said, okay, that's a little bit too much, but let's narrow it down a little bit. So we got down to about 35, and over 2 days we had meetings set up with all of those 35 people, 20 to 30 people. And from that, we were able to have the opportunity to meet leading KOLs in the space, some of the major CEOs in the space or corporate leaders in the space, and a number of engaged investors. And very quickly that translated into some of our best advisors, Dr. Yolen, Dr. Greg Buford, Dr. Grant Stevens, all advisors to us. Yep. Connections of groups that have invested in Acorn, and connections of groups that have created some level of partnership with us. And so we came in very hungry, but you were able to allow us to have the opportunity to come start that network here.
Hungry is good.
Yeah.
So Will, thank you very much. This was great having this discussion with you. I know you're going to present to the Octane board this afternoon, so that's going to be another great opportunity for you as a really atypical, terrific Octane portfolio company. So I want to thank you for all of your support and wish you well in the future. So.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, thanks.